Chapter 22 of The Expedition of the Donner Party and Its Tragic Fate. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Donna Stewart, Seattle, Washington. The Expedition of the Donner Party and Its Tragic Fate by Eliza P. Donner Houghton. Chapter 22. Gold discovered. California is ours. Nursing the sick. The U.S. military post. Burial of an officer. In the year 1848, while the settlers and their families were contentedly at work developing the resources of the country, the astounding cry, "Gold discovered," came through the valley like a blight, stopping every industry in its wake. Excited men, women, and children rushed to town in quest of information. It was furnished by Alcalde Boggs and General Vallejo, who had been called away privately 2 weeks earlier, and had just returned in a state of great enthusiasm, declaring that gold, in dust, grains, and chunks, had been discovered at Coloma, not more than a day's journey from Sutter's Fort. "How soon can we get there?" became the all-absorbing problem of eager listeners. The only hotel keeper in the town sold his kettles and pans, closed his house, and departed. Shopkeepers packed most of their supplies for immediate shipment, and raised the price of those left for home trade. Men and half-grown boys hardly took time to collect a meager outfit before they were off with a shovel and pan and something big to hold the gold. A few families packed their effects into emigrant wagons and deserted house and lands for the luring gold fields. Crowds from San Francisco came hurrying through, some stopping barely long enough to repeat the maddening tales that had started them off to the diggings with pick and shovel. Each new rumor increased the exodus of gold seekers, and by the end of the first week in August, when the messenger arrived with the long-hoped-for report of the ratification of the Treaty of Peace, and General Mason's proclamation officially announcing it, there were not enough men left in the valley outside of the barracks to give a decent round of cheers for the blessing of peace. Grandpa brought the news home, "California is ours. There will be no more war, no more trouble, and no more need of soldiers." Yet the women felt that their battles and trials had just begun, since they had suddenly become the sole homekeepers, with limited ways and means to provide for the children and care for the stock and farms. Discouragement would have rendered the burdens of many too heavy to carry, had not "work together" and "help your neighbor" become the watchwords of the day. No one was allowed to suffer through lack of practical sympathy. From house to house, by turns, went the strong to help the weak to bridge their troubles. They went not with cheering words only, but with something in store for the empty cupboards, and with helping hands to help milk, wash, cook, or sew. Grandma was in such demand that she had little time to rest, for there was not a doctor nor a medicine shop in the valley, and her parcels of herbs and knowledge of their uses had to serve for both. Nights she set her shoes handy, so that she could dress quickly when summoned to the sick, and dawn of day often marked her homecoming. Georgia and I were led into her work early, for we were sent with broths and appetizers to the sick on clearings within walking distances, and she would bid us stay a while at different houses where we could be helpful, but to be sure and bring careful reports from each home we entered. Under such training, we learned much about diseases and the care of the suffering. Anon, we would find in the plain wooden cradle a dainty bundle of sweetness, all done up in white, which its happy owner declared Grandma had brought her, and we felt quite repaid for our tiresome walk if permitted to hold it a wee while and learn its name. We were sent together on these missions in order that we might help each other to remember all that was told us. Yet Grandma had us take turns, and the one whom she commissioned to make the inquiries was expected to bring the fuller answers. Sometimes we played on the way and made mistakes. Then she would mete out to us the hardest of punishments, namely, that we were not to speak with each other until she should forgive our offense. Forgiveness usually came before time to drive up the cows, for she knew that we were nimbler footed when she started us off in a happy mood. Each cow wore a bell of different tone and knew her own name. Yet it was not an easy task, even in pleasant weather, to collect the various strings and get them home on time. They mixed and fed with the neighbors' cattle on the range, and hid themselves behind clumps of trees and other convenient obstructions. Often grandma would get her string in by the main trail and have them milked before we could bring up the laggards that provokingly dawdled along, nibbling stray bunches of grass. When late on the road, we saw coyotes sneaking out for their evening meal and heard the faraway cry of the panther. But we were not much afraid when it was light enough so that imagination could not picture them creeping stealthily behind us. Our gallant Company C, officered by Captain Bartlett and Lieutenants Stoneman and Stone, was ordered to another post early in August, and its departure caused such universal regret that no one supposed Company H, under Captain Frisbee, could fill its place. Nevertheless, that handsome young officer soon found his way to the good will of the people, and when Captain Joe Hooker brought him out to visit grandma's dairy, she too was greatly pleased by his soldierly bearing. After he mentioned that he had heard of her interest in the company which had been called away, and that he believed she would find Company H equally deserving of her consideration, she readily extended to the new men the homelike privileges which the others had enjoyed. Thus more friends came among us. Notable among mine was the old darky cook at headquarters, from whom Georgia and I tried to hide the first time she waddled out to our house. She searched us out, saying, "Now, honeys, don't you be so scared of dis old Aunt Lucy, 'cause she done heard Captain Hooker tell lots 'bout yus, and she's come to see yus." Her face was one great smile, and her voice was so coaxing that she had little difficulty in gaining our favor, the more so as upon leaving she called back, "I'se surely gwine to make dat little pie and cake I promised yus, so yus mustn't forget to come and git it." On one occasion, when I was sent to the post on an errand, she had no pie or cake, but she brought out a primer, and said thoughtfully, "I's gwine to give you dis here ABC book, 'cause I want you should grow up like quality folks." Its worn leaves showed that its owner had studied its first few pages only, and when I replied, "Grandma says I must not take everything that is offered me," she chuckled and continued, "Lord, honey, you needn't have no punctions about taking this here book, 'cause I couldn't learn to read nohow when I was a gal, and I's too old now. Now I wants you to be nice, and you can't, less'n you can read and talk like the Captain done told me your mudder done." I was delighted with the book and told her so, and hugged it all the way home, for it had a beautiful picture near the back, showing a little girl with a sprinkling pot, watering her garden of stocks, sweet williams, and hollyhocks. Her hair was in 4 long curls, and she had trimming on her dress, apron, and long pantalettes. I was also impressed by the new words I had heard Aunt Lucy use, "punctions" and "quality folks." I repeated them over and over to myself, so that I should be able to tell them to Georgia. Our last visit to Aunt Lucy must have been prearranged, for as she admitted us, she said, "I's mighty glad yus done come so soon, 'cause I've been expecting yus, and must take yus right in to de General." I had never seen a general, and was shy about meeting one, until after she assured me that only cowards and bad men feared him. We walked down the corridor and entered a large room where an elderly gentleman in uniform sat writing at a table. Aunt Lucy stopped beside him, and still holding each by the hand, bowed low, saying, "General Smith, I brung you the 2 little Donna gals in to see you, sir." Then she slipped out. He was as courteous to us as though we were grown ladies, shook hands, asked how we felt, begged us to be seated, and then stepped to a door and called, "Susan, Susan." I liked the name. A sweet voice answered, "Coming." Presently a pretty dark-haired Southern lady appeared, who called us honeys and dear little girls. She sat between us, joining with her husband in earnest inquiries about our stay in the mountains and our home with grandma.